So we'll just go through kind of the background and the context in which the study took place and explain the methods and the sort of parameters around the study, and then show you some of the results as well. So it kind of starts off with anyone who's got a spinal cord injury or works with people with spinal cord injury will be quite familiar with the idea that this is one of the most common and debilitating secondary complications associated with spinal cord injury. And chronic pain after STI is estimated to be quite high, averaging around 70%, affecting 70% of people with spinal cord injury. And there's few pain management options that are truly successful or that adequately treat pain. Some of them have side effects like drowsiness, fatigue, the zombie state, things like that. Or they'll take rid of pain, manage pain but not get rid of it completely, things like that. So cannabis is becoming more and more topical. It's in the media a lot more, and it comes into that conversation about pain as well.
Right. So my name's Tori. I'm a training intern and hopefully in a couple of months to graduate to be a house officer, which is a junior doctor. I was involved in this project because I helped to do the interviews and transcribe the research. And I am just going to talk about the cannabis conundrum. So in terms of cannabis, it's cannabis sativa is the scientific name. However, hemp and marijuana are layperson terms which are thrown around to describe either the low THC or high THC cannabis. So THC is the psychotropic molecule that's in cannabis, and it's the molecule that is actually legal. If you take out THC, effectively you have what people would call hemp. So in terms of what we have in the public domain around cannabis, there's a lot of stuff in the media, especially recently. It's been very topical. And we see a lot of headlines such as what we can see here: epilepsy seizures cured after ingesting cannabis oil with high counts of CBD. So we do see these extreme headlines thrown around, and that's sort of on the one side. And then on the other side, we have, that it's in the United States, cannabis or high THC cannabis is federally illegal. Hemp was federally illegal up until December last year, but in the United States it was just recently made legal. So the high THC cannabis is still federally illegal in states, which we copy their drug laws as well. So on the other side of the spectrum, we have, somewhere in the middle between these kind of miraculous statements and what the FDA is saying. We have research, and in terms of the research, the most, thorough research that's been done recently was a study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine. And they have a report called The Health Effects of Cannabis and Cannabinoids. And they've gone through, it was released at the beginning of 2017. And they have gone through the literature that as it stood at that time, and they've come up with therapeutic benefits that there is research for. However, they've also got future directions for areas where cannabis has no effect. Or has not been shown to have any effect yet. It's really difficult in this report to tease out cannabis from cannabinoids. So cannabinoids are the single molecules that are in cannabis. So things like THC or tetrahydrocannabinol, and CBD is another one that's quite popular, or cannabidiol. So a lot of the research either looks exclusively at one molecule or looks exclusively at cannabis, which has whole plant cannabis. So it's got all 500 plus molecules within cannabis. So teasing out where we have evidence and where we don't is difficult because of this issue. So here, when we're talking about cannabis, we are talking about what the patients themselves are using. And unfortunately, in this illegal realm, a lot of these patients don't actually know exactly what's in there. So we're talking about cannabis, not specific molecules, the whole plant. Yeah. A lot of the headlines are quite interesting. Medicinal cannabis, quote unquote, a remarkably useful drug. Right down to medicinal cannabis, quote unquote, false hope for chronic pain sufferers, pain doctors. So I think we're seeing a huge divide in opinions from people within the field, but the field itself is huge, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of papers, so it's impossible for any one person to read the whole literature. If you are interested, I would suggest that you look at the National Academy of Science, Engineering and Medicine report. It's a pretty good overview. However, there's been a lot of research done since then. But in 2012 and 2013, the Ministry of Health conducted a New Zealand health survey, and from that they found 42% of New Zealanders, which was 167,000 individuals, reported that they used cannabis. 11% of the total population said that they had used cannabis at least once in the last 12 months. And of those 11%, the 167,000, 42% of that reported using it for medicinal purposes. So we have a bit of a conundrum here, because we've got, a large percentage of our population already using something. And we have on the other end, some doctors who are very open and some who are very closed. So I think it's really important in this kind of realm to look at this sort of study and look at the perspectives from the patients themselves, because there's a lot of research and people are using it, so we need to understand why they're using
it. So the study context, there's been quite a lot of anecdotal reports that people with spinal cord injury use cannabis in various forms, but there's been no systematic kind of analysis or look at that. And it's really critical that as the medicinal cannabis scheme is going to come into implementation next year, that clinicians, users and researchers are informed to the best of our ability. And there's minimal research, international research, exploring user perspectives as well. And user perspectives are particularly important for the political and social debate in cannabis use. So the aim of our study was to understand why individuals with spinal cord injury choose to use cannabis to manage their pain and their experiences of doing so. So we weren't focused on, whether cannabis is effective from a biological sense. We were really focused on the perspectives of people who are using cannabis. So we did semi-structured interviews with people who had a spinal cord injury, experienced pain, self-reported the use of cannabis to manage pain, and were 18 years or older. The exclusion criteria was the cognitive impairment such as brain injury. And interviews were recorded, transcribed, and subject to thematic analysis, which is basically you just get the transcripts, code them, and look for general themes throughout the transcripts. The results here, we had 8 participants. 3 participants were interviewed in person by myself and Tori. 5 were interviewed by video conference. And the interviews ranged between half an hour and 1 hour. And from those interviews and transcripts, we came up with 6 key things that outline it. And we'll go on now to explain each theme in an illustrative type for us. But the themes briefly were the prison of pain, the prescribed drugs don't work, choosing to use cannabis, negotiating in a legal context, being free to pursue meaningful outcomes, and you can't always get what you want. There's a bit of a dot to the Rolling Stones. So theme one, the prison of pain. Pretty much all participants reported living in pretty much unbearable pain. That's not being dramatic about it, that's really how they were experiencing life. This experience was, I suppose we use the analogy of a prison because they felt like they were a spectator of their own life. They felt separated from everything around them. And the quote being, it just takes over your life. I mean, when you have the pain, you can't do anything. You can barely talk. It just overtakes everything. The theme two, the prescribed drugs don't work. We're quite aware that prescription drugs do work to a certain level, but I suppose what we're exploring here is that they don't work to the sense that the side effects of a lot of pain medication drugs can be quite detrimental as well. And they were either ineffective in allowing people to live a functional life through detrimental side effects or both. Common effects with drowsiness, fatigue, and being unable to engage in activities and participation outcomes that were important to them. And the quote being, it dulls the pain, but then I'm sleepy, so I feel like a bit of a zombie. I don't really like that, it's not the way I want to live. So I dull the pain, but if the side effects from it kind of cancel that out, it's not really an effective medicine. So then participants would they're in pain, the prescription medications aren't working, so then they kind of make the choice to explore using cannabis. Of course, cannabis is the idea, especially if people have no experience of it, between what I've already said, the THC and the CBD. So they wanted to manage their pain, but they really didn't want to be stoned. They didn't want to feel that euphoria that can come with some cannabis. As one participant said, I'm not wanting to get stoned every day, all day, because that's not me. I want to, but I get to live every day. There's a big difference. So there's a really big separation that came through in all the people we talked to about not wanting to be affected by THC. They just wanted the pain relieving effects. And participants were very convinced that cannabis was effective in reducing their pain, or putting them in a relaxed state that their pain didn't overtake their life to the same extent that it did without cannabis. It almost, in a sense, freed participants from the prison of pain and enabled them to engage in activities and participation outcomes that were important. Just being able to talk to people, to go out into the community. And this quote here is from a father of some boys. And he said, I can feel like doing something. I make a point of getting up and doing things for the boys, you know. So interacting with his family. And prior to trying cannabis, there was no kind of effective pain medication that was allowing him to do that. I highlight the picture there too. Key to life. Of course, the big elephant in the room is cannabis. A lot of products are illegal, which makes it interesting. And so, what was interesting here was a lot of participants. You know, there was a really broad range, up to 73 years old, who never touched or thought about cannabis in their life. And participants described this kind of blurred line between the positive impact on pain from using cannabis and the negative perception, the negative stigma that surrounded cannabis and where it sits in society. As one person said, oh, in a former life, if someone mentioned cannabis, I would have thrown my arms up in horror. I think this is the last resort because you're always waiting to see what will happen. So people just want to live good lives. And they get to a stage where the negative stigma, the negative perceptions, they kind of just get put to the side and they just want to get rid of that pain. The last thing, you can't always get what you want, kind of refers to that unregulated market, basically. There was often uncertainty regarding supply, inconsistent cannabinoid composition. So thinking what's actually in the product I'm getting. Am I going to get a different product next week? Am I going to get the same product every time? Is it available? A lack of guidance from health professionals because it is illegal, and you know, there's a quite polarizing view from health professionals too, and obviously potentially criminal consequences. So there's a bit of noise there to get through. And this right here was quite good from one participant because it kind of sums it up. If you're not going to grow it yourself, you're therefore left to buy it. You don't know what you're getting. I've had instances where I've bought the wrong product. Where's the fairness of that? And the wrong product this person was referring to was high THC cannabis. All of a sudden, can't do much at all because they're very sleepy and too high, quote unquote, to go out and do anything. So some of the key conclusions, I suppose, from those 6 things, we found that the cannabis people were using reduced pain and increased participation. People found using cannabis, it wasn't so foggy, didn't put them in a foggy state or a zombie state, which was really, really important to them. Participants were really well informed about products. There was a lot of peer discussion. There was a lot of research in our forums. But that peer discussion is really important. People with spinal cord talking to other people with spinal cord talking to other people with spinal cord to find out what works, where good supplies come from, and that sort of thing. But there was also that unpredictability about accessing unregulated illegal product. It's not like you go to the doctor and you say, take 2 pills, one in the morning, one at night, away you go. A lot of experimentation to find out what works well for certain individuals. And it really came through that because people could pursue meaningful activities and participation, that future research focused on meaningful outcomes as opposed to just pain intensity changes. Because it might be interesting to look at if your pain score drops from a 9 to a 5, but what does that tell us about people's lives? And the participants in this study that really came through that they were focused on meaningful outcomes with their life. So more research is needed from user perspectives and also from health professional perspectives. There was someone from the UK recently coming down to New Zealand, educating GPs recently in the last week or so, because if they start having to prescribe cannabis, they need to be educated on it also, and the suppliers as well. And an increased focus generally on the endocannabinoid system to manage pain. It's a huge system in our body that hasn't really got the research it deserves to have.
Can I just quickly add in there, I was never taught about the endocannabinoids system. And anybody who is in the medical profession, doctors who are either graduated now or older, haven't been taught about it ever. They have put one slide in one lecture about the endocannabinoid system, but we haven't been taught about it. So currently it's not in a lot of doctors' toolboxes, unfortunately. So in terms of the implications of the proposed medicinal cannabis scheme by the current government, they are, in the proposal that's out there at the moment, they are looking at educating health professionals around the endocannabinoid system for a start, and also available cannabis products. And there are issues around licensing, because the license itself costs a whole bunch of money. So people who can afford it will obviously separate that from the people who are currently have the knowledge and are doing it already, from the people who have the money and who are, already investing thousands, if not millions of dollars into this. So whether or not that helps patients at this sort of grassroots level, I don't know. I hope it does. I think this scheme are trying to get to that. But the specialist sign-off that you said, that you mentioned before, that is a proposal. Whether or not it goes forward is anyone's guess. So unfortunately with specialist sign-off, it makes it difficult because specialists are more expensive to go to, and they're also quite difficult to see the next day, like a GP perhaps would be. And in the case of spinal cord injury pain, I think that that's quite unethical to expect the patient to wait 6 months to, this is just my belief, to have access to something that's really helping them with their pain, which unfortunately would, they know that they can go and get something down the road, is still going to drive this underground pain medication.
For the licensing concerns, it's really interesting because you've got such a knowledge base of, green theories. People have been growing and experimenting with it for years. It would be a real shame if all of that knowledge was kind of overtaken by big companies with huge amounts of capital and things like that. That kind of brings us to the end of our presentation. I'd just like to thank all of the research team as well. Joe Nunley, Michelle Martin, William Levac, Corey, myself, and Dr. Rebecca as well.
And Bonnie Thompson.
And Bronnie Thompson. Thank you. And you can keep up to date with this project and all of our other projects on our website. And these are our Twitter accounts if you'd like to follow us.